Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Thoughts of a Rambling Mind. This video today is going to be about a topic that I saw on another well-known YouTuber's page. He called it the pandemic within the pandemic. I'm going to try to coin the phrase the Afrodemic, right, or the Blackademic. Right? And what he was referring to was the crime wave and the murder rate increase that's been happening since the pandemic has occurred. Um, this this recent spat of crime increase is due to a perfect storm of a bunch of activities culminating into one result. The result that we have before us. Um, there's actually the storm was so perfect it almost seems like it was planned. You understand? I won't directly say it was planned because I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Although it does seem like I'm a conspiracy theorist if you watch my channel, watch my videos, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I try to stick to facts. Things that I put out on this channel are facts, they're not conspiracies. And so I'll stick to that. What I will say for a fact is that there was a perfect storm of events that led up to where we are now, and I will detail those events. So we'll start with the pandemic, right? The pandemic occurred, and they began locking people in their houses, right? Shortly before the pandemic, though, the issue of racial disparities in the bail bond system began to take steam. And it was decided that in the African American community, um, bail was a racist institution that was disproportionately affected minorities. In other words, uh, when someone committed a crime and they were issued a bail, it was far less likely that an African American or minority would be able to make that bail. And so, therefore, in effect, it was incarcerating innocent black men without being convicted of a crime. The resulting legislation for that was to reduce the amount of bails that were issued and increase the amount of people that were released on their own recognizance. The way to do that was to take some of the crimes that normally would be a mandatory bail situation or a mandatory bond situation and allow that person to be released and given a desk appointment ticket or a desk appearance ticket or another date to come into court to resolve that case. And these crimes stemmed from anything from petty theft, shoplifting, all the way up to stalking, menacing, and harassing. Um, Stop short of violent crime. So if you committed a violent crime, you would still be subjected to the former system. But if you committed a crime that was um, non-violent in nature, then it was very likely that you would be released on your own recognizance. This started the increase of petty theft, larceny, shoplifting, and other things of that nature. Then comes the pandemic. And during the pandemic, everyone became locked in stores. Um, the tensions of the restless youth began to increase. Um, Pent up energy, pent up anger from being imprisoned in a home. And then we were given the instruction that you could be let outside, but only if you wore masks to cover your face. Most people wore masks and gloves to cover your face and your hands. Now, although masks and gloves are tools and are equipment for the healthcare industry, it is also tools and equipment for the criminal underworld. robbers, thieves, murderers all use masks and gloves to perform their duties. This is what I mean by a perfect storm. Also, during the pandemic, we had the George Floyd situation and the Breonna Taylor situation and the resurgence of Black Lives Matter as a political force to be reckoned with. The largest protests that ever happened across the United States and across the world all happened during this time period. It was a time period where everyone was not at work and everyone had a lot of extra free time to protest. Not only that, but everyone was restless and had a lot of motivation to get out of the house. During these protests and the assault on police officers because of the narrative of police brutality. And when I say narrative, I don't mean to imply that police brutality is not a real thing, that discrimination and prioritizing African American youth for persecution is not a real thing. It is absolutely a real thing. However, it is not an inconsistent thing. And so the coverage of it is inconsistent. And it seems to me that the coverage only increases when there's an agenda and action that is needed to be taken. And then whoever the powers that be are seen to increase the amount of coverage that happens around police encounters with Black people. I won't conspiracize, if that's a word. I won't be a conspiracy nut and go into and speak definitively on that. I'll just say what it seems like to me, what I've observed. So now that the police have been, in a way, shell-shocked from doing their jobs. I work in a security field. I'm not a security guard, but I work in a security field. And I happen to know that when many complaints come out about security officers and it begins to be an issue where they're worried about their job, worried about keeping their job, then they begin to allow the rules and the regulations to be broken. That's just a natural human course of action when you're being critiqued about your job and are at risk of losing that. So the police kind of had a hands-off approach to crime. And it became a perfect storm. A perfect storm of events that would lead to a significant increase in homicides, rapes, robberies, assaults, weapons attacks. All of our cities are deteriorating at a rapid rate. The homeless population has exploded. Mental illness within this homeless population seems to be overwhelming. And the policies of our leaders seem to be encouraging the problem or fanning the flames, adding fuel to the fire. There's a Black pandemic within the pandemic, an Afrodemic going on, where our youth, our children, are slaughtering each other at a rate that is unheard of in our history. The plight that Chicago was going through in the time before the pandemic has since spread to every urban African American community, every urban African American gang. The rappers are now succumbing to the side effects of this. We have to understand that Black people are no longer safe no matter what financial status they've reached in life. You're no longer safe from the encroachment of the negative side of the African American community. And if that side of our community is allowed free reign, and if the rest of American society and the societies of the world continue to highlight that side of our community, the sheeple of the world will continue to admire and desire to be a part of that side of our community. And that culture of negativity, murder, killing, rape, robbing will become commonplace in the world that we live in. Thoughts of a Rambling Mind. Please like, subscribe, share, and I'm out.